Declan will be back with us with more financial headlines and more details on the latest GDP numbers at 8:30 this morning. Now, it's thought 73% of us are finding life more financially challenging compared to 10 years ago. A study carried out by advertising agency Saatchi Saatchi suggests there is an overwhelming sense of pessimism ahead of the general election. Well, the firm, of course, behind the famous Labour Isn't Working campaign back in the 1979 election, thought to have significantly contributed to Margaret Thatcher's victory then. Well, Richard Huntington joins me now, chair of Saatchi Saatchi. Good to have you with us, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, just firstly on the findings, I think for many voters, this news of facing financial challenges will come as absolutely no surprise at all, won't it? Many have struggled through the dreadful austerity years, then a pandemic, then a recession, and umpteen Conservative Party resets over 14 years now. They're heading off to polling next week. They must be absolutely frustrated, if not exhausted, wondering when on earth things will get better.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we keep picking up is that we're a nation that's worried, that's tired, and is desperate for hope. But our findings are really focusing on the middle class as much as anybody to really understand whether that sense of challenge is felt throughout society or just in the people who have really been making those trade-offs between, say, heating and eating in the past. And I think what's important about this study and this stat is it indicates the pressure that the middle class are under. And we've just heard there that business confidence is down. And that's because our businesses depend on a thriving and prosperous middle class in order to sell their products.
Yeah, indeed. So for all the messages then emerging in this general election campaign, and I'm thinking be it physically with politicians on the campaign trail in constituencies or via posters or social media and online, do you think there's firm evidence emerging, though, that it's cutting through at all, be it on core things like improving the economy, wages, job prospects, improving the NHS, education or house building?
I don't believe that anything is really cutting through. Messages may be cutting through. In fact, in a sense, actually, it's the news agenda and the gaffes that cut through, not the messaging from the parties. To be honest, communications from all political parties have been unprofessional and risible, to be honest. And really, what people are feeling is that nothing will make a significant difference. Only 37% of people believe that a change of government will lead to a change in their personal circumstances.
Look, I'm old enough to remember how massive posters all over the place featuring really clever messaging from the main parties and their advertising themes was a really, really big thing in the past, and not so much now, of course. Should we lament that? I was thinking on the way in this morning, I've only seen one big poster in this entire campaign, and it was yesterday. It was from Labour, and it was he left them on the beaches, referring, of course, to Rishi Sunak leaving the final D-Day commemorations, as opposed to policies and messages on making people's lives better.
100%. I mean, just that example you use is not a Labour Party ad. It's an initiative by an individual. I think it's the stuff, the skirmishing, I call it, around the edges that's more professional and interesting than the work of the political parties, who've all bought the idea that, you can use social media to cut through, that social media is the way you access young people's votes. Of course, what we know is that young people are profoundly disengaged with politics. Less than 50% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted in the 29 election. I think that's a fundamental problem for our democracy. So I think that the parties are mucking about on social media. And honestly, I lament the loss of posters, because that was politics in broad daylight. And what we see now is politics in the shadows, conversations taking place between parties and their supporters in the shadows. And of course, remember that this form of advertising is totally unregulated. It has to be legal, but it does not have to be decent. And fundamentally, it does not have to be honest.
Give us a sense then, just finally, Richard, of whether any of the main parties have been really engaged with advertising companies, like yours this time round, or have they missed a trick?
I believe that if the parties believe in the creative economy, they don't tend to use us in these occasions. We've been working for an organisation called Just Vote 24, driving voter registration and turnout amongst those critical first-time voters with a campaign called Voting is Hot AF. I think we know what that stands for. And based on a piece of analysis we did that suggests that on dating profiles, you're 40% more likely to be attractive if you are a voter. I think that there's more interesting and more potent work being done sort of outside the main political parties.
Really, really good to get your thoughts this morning. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Huntington, there, chair of Saatchi and Saatchi.